Good morning. I'm Colleen Derrick, a financial advisor with Swaggers Insurance. It's the month of November. We're on week number 3 of responsible investing, make versus take. In week number 1, we sort of did an overview of what responsible investing or ESG looks like, and really broadening our scope of understanding to a full 17 sustainable development goals, which underpin a lot of the movement or push towards ESG funds. That this is not just an environmental issue, that this is not just a climate change impact issue, that this is not just sustainable energy issue, that this is about thriving for individuals and our world, because we live here and we are interconnected, and especially in this unprecedented age of global economy and international ventures. What we do on a global scale, number one, it impacts more people than previously, perhaps before. But also, number two, that we are able to work as a collaborative whole on a much broader scale than was possible before. So we discussed that there's negative screening, positive screening, and impact investing. We discussed that, are we looking for companies that make value, and how are we treating companies that take value? We talked about different ways that fund managers can engage and interact with companies rather than just be a silent investor, that they are getting involved and that you can choose your level of involvement, your level of buy-in into the whole responsible investing world, which is also different than values-based investing and goals-based investing. Week number 2, we started to unpack ESG and started with governance. Who's calling the shots and what shots are they calling? What kind of a CEO does an ESG friendly fund support? What board of directors are we looking for with responsible investing mandates? How are they interacting with their employees, with their staff? Who are they attracting? How are they treating them? What impact are they having on the compensation structure and the community that they're in? I used our company that my dad started as an example about how that he was our president and had very clear direction. Then he really scaled back because he wasn't pleased with perhaps the lack of buy-in having a large board of directors would have entailed, and then also being so intentional on his successor, because he cared about the impact not only on our company but on our community and our clients and their families. We discussed the takeaways were a committed leader with passion and clear purpose, attractive to other talented, motivated, and passionate directors, retaining leadership and staff with appropriate compensation based on company priorities, and fostering collaboration and accountability with a unified team. So these are things that you might want to be looking for when you're considering a fund management mandate or a specific sharehold position in a company. Social risk is going to be this week's topic. So of the ESG, we started at the end with the G, governance, and now we're coming to the middle with social risk. Social risk attracts 2 different approaches: positioned to benefit and optimize from opportunities, and to protect from disruption and loss. So again, when we look at what responsible investing fund managers are looking for, and how they're instructing their team when they're vetting new companies to buy shares in or invest in, or when they're looking at existing companies and positions that they're holding, and should they continue with those positions or change those positions. They're looking at number 1, well, or not even number 1, because it's not a one or the other. They are of equal importance, I would suggest to you, for most management styles and mandates, that we want to protect from disruption and loss caused by social risk. But we also want to be positioning and taking opportunities from social gain. So what does social risk look like? I had problems scaling this down because it is a large and broad space with any numbers of perspectives, approaches and diverse content. So if this is not all encompassing, you're saying, Colleen, you missed out so much. You're right. I am going to miss out so much. For the sake of trying to simplify for our mini course and our 15-minute talk today, yeah, we're missing a lot. So let's just take a look, and hopefully you get the idea and can extrapolate from yourself, or dig in and do further research. Social trends, society we're operating. So how is the company interacting with the community and environment it's located in? It does, companies and corporations, we impact the people around us. We impact the area around us. We are not in vacuum, isolated, contained spaces as independent entities. We are part of the whole, and we interact and engage with and impact the whole. So is the company committed to creating a synergetic relationship, synergy, where we're bringing our best together to create something good and beneficial to take away from our interaction with others? What could be the negative or positive impact on the community? And what could be the negative or positive impact of the community on the company? If you've ever bought a house, location, 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 you know this concept. The community you live in, perhaps less in some areas of Alberta in Canada than, especially when my family, when we were living in the United States, our friends were being willing to commute 1.5 to 2 hours each way to work so that they could buy a home in the right community and have access to great education, a great school for their children. They understood this concept that their community can be a liability to their home, their family, their well-being, or it can be a positive blessing. Just as with housing, we know location, location, location. You can change everything about your home. You can't change the location without selling and buying somewhere else. Same thing is with your company. When we're looking at where are we going to start up a company, we want to look at what's going to be, number one, needed by that area. Access to supply chains and distributions. Simple things such as parking. If you are having many people come at one time to be in your office space or your company space, do you have parking available? Or if you don't have parking, do you have public transit access? These are huge, hugely important, because transportation costs are expensive and also have a large impact on the environment. They also have a large impact on our mental and emotional well-being. There is something beautiful about communities where people can walk or bike ride to and from their workspace. They're interacting with socially with their community. Commerce, they're keeping their dollars in that location. And their mental well-being and emotional well-being is often better, because they're building in this lifestyle and they're blooming where they're planted. So when we're talking about social risk, we know that the social risk of being in the wrong community or having a negative impact on the community you're in, these are negatives that we want to be avoiding. And we want to look for companies that are mindful and intentional and actionable on this point. Politics and environment. What countries and municipalities are impacting a company? My little company can be in, Strathmore, Alberta, Canada. Is it impacted by what happens in Texas, in the US? Is it impacted by what happens in the Philippines? My business is rather insulated to our country. What happens and decisions are made in Ontario absolutely do in fact affect me in Alberta, but I'm really not internationally impacted to a large degree, outside of that the investments I recommend and manage for my clients have access internationally. But my actual business structure is fairly contained, which I'm grateful for. But for being mindful about political impact for our distribution chains, as we seen during the pandemic, wow, had anybody predicted such a huge impact on foreign governments' decisions changing how we do business in North America. A company may or may not agree with a particular political movement, but to avoid undue risk and to position for prospering, it is essential to consider them. You don't have to like it, you have to know about it, and you do have to accommodate and account for it if you wish to be proactive in pursuing profit and well-being for your company and your staff. The environment. I don't have to like an environmental movement, but I do need to be aware that it's happening. If we move forward with electric vehicles and I have people commuting to my space, I'm going to need to have and be positioned to provide electric recharging stations, most likely, right? It's like a lot of you remember when we had our office out on the farm, and those of you that had lower vehicles with two-wheel drive and possibly not front-wheel drive, you probably didn't come for meetings in the wintertime because you wouldn't have been able to navigate the gravel road to get to our office. That's a consideration and an impact. I needed to be aware of the environment that our office was settled in. Dad needed to be aware of the environment our office was settled in, and he was. And so he tried to accommodate that. A lot of you remember my husband, Sean, clearing the driveway for you so that you could make it up the hill to get to the office for your meeting. What a small scale example of a huge impact. Companies impacting the environment are huge. We're seeing government incentives for companies who are moving forward to a net zero positioning. Well, if the money's flowing in that direction, we need to be aware of that. Life transitions, money moves, political decisions are the same situation. When politics transition, money moves. With the environmental movement, we are seeing money move. As a business, we want to be looking for investing in companies that understand this and are looking to take advantage of the opportunities that are available, who are maybe a little bit ahead of the trend, not trailing behind it, being dragged along, kicking and screaming, because where's the profit potential there? And where are the risks of punitive judgments against companies that are not on board? Labor and workforce. Who is a company hiring and why? Do they have one small demographic of a certain age bracket, or are they embracing a multi-generational workforce and benefiting from that? What could disrupt their access to employable staff? If all of their staff are over the age of 55 and they're not hiring anybody younger, what's going to happen to that company in 10 years? Then who's going to be in a place of experienced supervising and management? Do they have a high retention of valuable employees? Staff turnover is expensive. If you have great staff and you can retain them, your cost savings are massive, not to mention the compounding benefit of, you know what, if you've got good staff and you're retaining them, they're getting traction in their position and they're building value for you. We want to invest in those companies. What disruptions could impact their workforce, and are they reactive or proactive, ensuring consistent quality teams? And again, we've got negative screening, positive in screening, and then impact investing. And this is one of those areas where we definitely see that different dynamic applied to greater levels. Social risk, good health and well-being to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. This is number 3 of the sustainable investment goals. A company loses productivity when staff is off on stress leave and burnout. It increases group benefit premiums when claims experience rise. This impacts profitability. Healthy, happy people are creative and a morale booster, which increases profit. So, sustainable goal number 3, good health and well-being. This really helps us avoid some of the social risk inherent with well-being. Occupational health and safety to ensure safe and healthy workspaces for people to learn and grow, building productivity through confidence with education. So people who feel safe are supported and more productive. Companies who care about the well-being of their employees benefit from less downtime and liability costs while growing trust and collaborative efforts. Sustainable goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Affordable housing is an issue that we are seeing progress in. The UK has seen investor appetite for affordable housing investment opportunities. Canada is now moving in this direction with CMHC's Affordable Housing Innovation Fund and the New Market Funds. Community partnership is essential to provide workable long-term housing solutions. And also we see increased awareness in the need to move beyond studio and single bedroom units where our families living. Now, social risk. Companies that are understanding that their workers, their staff, their employees need affordable housing to both encourage, politically support, verbally vote, shareholder support, but also to invest their investment dollars in these initiatives makes them attractive. Because we're seeing that they're not just building into their company, they're building into their community, they're building into sustainable workforces, and this reduces social risk. Talk about packing a lot in a nutshell. I hope you were able to actually absorb some of that. Please do some more research on your own if this is an area that interests you. And if it's not really, that's okay. Just know that when you're working towards investments that make the world rejoice, these are some of the aspects that fund managers on socially responsible investing mandate teams, they're looking at these things, they're caring about these things, and they're supporting the companies that are building into these things. I hope that's encouraging for you because it's making our world and making people's lives better, which I think is a good thing. And again, let's remember to set down and lay down perfection and embrace progress.